Ravens have broken a 3-game losing streak, beating the Cleveland Browns 30-27 as Phil Dawson misses a game-tying 51-yard field goal. Both teams are now 5-5. The Ravens coming back from a 14-point deficit to win this game to end the losing streak. And Wally, you got to take a deep breath right now. Relax, right?
I mean, I'm over here breaking out no sweat. I think right there was very, very intense. Hey, the guys showed some intensity. They showed a sense of urgency there in the second half. And, man, I mean, what a great game. What a great game for everybody out there to view, an entertaining game. And whew, this is the kind of game we've been waiting for right here.
How about Kyle Bowler, what he did compared to the first half to the second half? With 2 minutes to go in the first half, Bowler was like a -8 yards passing. The second half, it was like day and night.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought this thing was just going to sink and fall by the wayside there. They only had 6 total yards in the whole first half. Then what an explosion in the second half. I mean, just when you thought the team was going to tank and the season was just going to be over, these guys come back and respond. I mean, the offense, I can't say enough of how these guys came back and responded in the second half. So hopefully this right here is the beginning of something big for this team. They're going into the meat of their schedule, and this is the kind of production with Kyle just throwing the ball all over the field, making pretty much all the throws today. I mean, we've been waiting for this kind of production, and, hey, Kyle is the best answer we have right now. So Baltimore, let's rally behind him and see how he finishes out the rest of the season.
Now, we're being told the field goal attempt by Dawson, the 51-yarder, is being reviewed. It hit the upright, then it hit the crossbar, and it wound up on the ground. Whether it went behind the crossbar or in front of the crossbar, I guess is going to be debated right now. But if Cleveland, if they say the field goal is good, the game's going to wind up being tied. But right now, we're under the assumption that the Ravens have won the game, but that may not be true. Wow. We're going to take a short break, and hopefully we'll find out exactly, the true outcome of this game, whether it's going to overtime or whether the Ravens have pulled off a victory. We may have came on the air a little bit too early, but we will be right back as we continue with Wally Williams, Ravens Extra here on Massive. Field goal is now good. Phil Dawson has made a 51-yard field goal to tie the game up at 30, and the game obviously is going to be going to overtime. But Kyle Bowler with a terrific performance in the second half. The Ravens at one point were down 27-13.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Bowler is capable of making.
The Ravens lose a heartbreaker in overtime to the Cleveland Browns 33-30. The Ravens dropped to 4-6, 4 losses in a row. The second time they've lost to the Cleveland Browns this season. Kyle Bowler had a magnificent second half. He threw a 27-yard touchdown pass to DeVar Darling, 22 of 41 for 279. Willis McGahee had a touchdown run. He finished with 102 yards, and Darling had a career-high 4 catches for 107 yards. But the Ravens wound up giving up a 51-yard field goal to Phil Dawson, sort of a controversial field goal to tie the game up at the end of regulation, and then the Ravens never get the ball back in the overtime, and they wind up losing to the Cleveland Browns 33-30. So Dawson makes a 51-yarder to tie it and a 33-yarder to win it. So really, Wally, when you think about it, it would look like a happy day about 20 minutes ago. It's turned out to be another Ravens loss.
Well, the field goal is just going to add a lot more spice to this rivalry. I mean, these guys have been battling back and forth. We know the history of going back and forth between these two cities, and this is probably going to go down in history as the field goal that either catapults this team into obscurity and being champions and all this kind of stuff, or puts our team down to where, they're not going to come out of a funk and go down in a couple of years. I mean, our team sits right now with 0-5 in the division, so it is safe to say that the Ravens are going to be out of the playoffs because it's just very hard to make it when you have that bad of a conference, of a division record. So, very, very, very demoralizing victory, but there are a couple of things that we can take away from this game to say, look, the Ravens did make some strides. I thought Kyle Bowler made some strides, and they fought back. And that's something that we haven't seen this team do offensively, is fight back, come back, and try to take control of a game in the second half. So we have to be somewhat pleased in their production and how they responded after having just an absolutely hideous first half.
Now, the 6th loss for the season for the Ravens, that's twice as many as they had all of last year, where they finished 13-3. But it's also kind of interesting, as well, I just mentioned a second ago, in the 5 losses that the Ravens had earlier, they did not have the lead in any of the games. Brian Billick is now stepping to the podium, and we're going to see Brian Billick's comments right now about the Ravens' overtime loss to Cleveland.
With regards to it, because I have no clue what just happened in terms of the ruling and why it did the way they did, and I'm sure they'll explain it, and I'll get the appropriate memo later in the week.
Brian, what happened to Kyle in the second half? It's so different than the first.
I really couldn't tell you. Obviously started to see things better, and the character this team showed. I know A loss is a loss in the NFL, and you all don't really care much hearing me talk about it, but the character the team showed coming back in the second half,